got a great topwater panfish hopper pattern for you this week. This is called the mini hopper. If you watched my video a couple weeks ago on the bluegill candy hopper, the gentleman who created that pattern also created the mini hopper. The mini hopper is just a fun pattern. It's quick to tie. There's not much to it. It represents very well on the water as a terrestrial, a hopper, or a cricket type pattern. I've found over the last few years that the bluegill and the panfish just love this fly. This is a real basic pattern. If you don't have some of the materials that are in this, simply swap out whatever you have just to make this fly. It's a great hopper pattern, and it's a lot of fun to fish. That's the mini hopper. We'll go ahead and get started. Start the mini hopper by placing your hook in the vise. This is a Mustad 3906B in a size 10. Then debarb the hook. For thread for this, we're going to be using a Wapsi UTC Ultra thread. It's 70 Denier in black. You're going to attach your thread behind the eye of the hook and then run the thread down the hook shank, just putting a little base layer of thread all along the hook shank. You'll then advance your thread forward, back up to just behind the eye of the hook. For the head and the wing case of our mini hopper, we're using a closed-celled foam. Some people refer to it as a craft foam. This is in a orange or fluorescent orange color. You'll want to cut a strip of foam that is as wide as the gap of the hook. And then you're going to cut one end to a little point. We'll attach the foam to the top of the hook with a point pointing towards the back of the hook. Make certain that the widest part of the foam is just right behind the eye of the hook. The point simply will give us a nice little taper as we secure that foam onto the hook. When you're securing the foam, make certain that you're wrapping forward so that the foam is lashed down right behind the eye of the hook, not over the eye of the hook, but we don't want to have a gap behind the eye of the hook either. Make certain to put plenty of wraps of thread all on top of the foam to make certain it is well secured to the hook shank. If it does twist away from you, which sometimes it will, that's fine. You can simply scooch that foam back on top of the hook shank. When you're done, run your thread down to the end of the hook shank, and here we will start the body. For the body, I'm using some black UV ice dubbing. We'll dub about a 3 to 4 inch dubbing noodle. You want to make this kind of thin towards the tail end and tapered so it's thicker all the way up to just behind the eye of the hook. You want to make certain that you run the dubbing all the way up to the foam and then take your thread about an eye length back away from the foam down the hook shank. This is where we're going to tie in our wing and our legs. You can trim away some of the longer fibers that are sticking out, but I really wouldn't concern myself with it because the teeth on these panfish will pick out all of that and make it really buggy anyway. For the wing on this, we're going to be using some elk hair. You'll want to cut about a half a pencil in diameter section of hair off the hide. You'll clean it and then stack it. We get the tips nice and even, and then we will measure those so that the tips go just a little bit beyond the bend of the hook. From there you can see where the other end is right up where it's going to be tied in, as well as right up behind that foam, and we'll cut the excess hair off. Place that on top of the body, and where your thread is, start wrapping that in. Get one or two wraps in, and you can see it starts to flare a little bit, and then wrap forward to lash in the butt ends of the elk hair. During the process, make certain that you hold on tight to the wing, because if you let that slip, then the torque from the thread will want to spin that around the hook shank, and we don't want it to spin. We want it to just stay as a nice stacked clump of hair on top for our wing. You don't have to cover the butt ends completely, as we're going to put some more UV black ice dub on top of that. Cover up those butt ends and thread wraps with some more ice dub, and notice that your thread is where it was hanging before, about an eye length or so right behind the eye of the hook. And this is where we're going to tie in our rubber legs and fold over the foam to make the wing case for our mini hopper. For legs on this, I'm using a barred orange Sili-Leg. You could certainly use a round rubber leg if you like. I'm going to take one of those legs and double it over, and I'm going to cut that in half. Then I'll take half of one of those, double it over again, and cut that in half. This will give me two legs, the right length for the legs for the mini hopper. We'll tie in one leg on one side. You want to just put in 2 or 3 wraps, nothing super tight, in case you need to adjust those legs a little bit. You'll want to make certain that the rear leg is a little bit longer than the front. Then we'll change over to the other side and tie in the other leg. By only putting in a few wraps and not tightening that up too much, you can pull on one of the legs if you need to move those around. So now the legs are a little bit longer in the back and a little bit shorter up front. At this point, we'll fold over the foam to make our wing case. If you fold over that foam and pull back too hard on it, what you're going to do is you're going to slope the head of the fly. It's going to be at a more abrupt angle. I like mine to have a little bit rounder nose or head right up front. So when I fold that over, I push it forward just a little bit, and that foam presents a bulkier, rounder head to it. Take a couple wraps of thread and tighten that up a little bit to cinch that foam down, and then you'll take another half dozen or so wraps to secure the foam and the rubber legs. Notice the resulting head is a little bit bigger and a little blunter. With our foam secure, we can put in a 4 or 5 turn whip finish to secure our thread. Then we can cut our thread off. The wing case is made by simply cutting at an angle on one side and then the other side. you'll end up with just a short, small pointed wing case. Some head cement on the thread wraps across the foam and on the underside will simply protect the thread a little against the sharp little teeth of panfish. If needed, you can trim your legs, but that completes the mini hopper. Wonderful simple hopper pattern. It's great for panfish. You can tie this up in different sizes and multiple different colors. You can change up the color of the foam, the legs, and the dubbed body to work for any situation that you might have, or just to have a little fun with it. Again, it's a quick, easy hopper pattern to tie up. I imagine it would even work for trout. The mini hopper is a great panfish pattern that works excellent in the spring and the summertime. Any evening, morning, afternoon you want to get out, catch some panfish on the surface. Thanks for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned at least a new pattern, if not a new technique, maybe a tip or trick here and there. If you have any questions about this fly or any of the techniques used in constructing this pattern, please leave them in the comments section down below. If you go to the trouble to ask a question, I'll go to the trouble to answer it. If you'd like to help dressed irons, please share this video with your friends and anybody you think that might enjoy this pattern. Until next time, remember, it's fly tying. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong.